For we wrestle not against flesh and blood, but against principalities, against powers, against the rulers of the darkness of this world, against spiritual wickedness in high places. Wherefore take unto you the whole armor of God, that ye may be able to withstand in the evil day, and having done all to stand. Stand therefore, having your loins girt about with truth, and having on the breastplate of righteousness, and your feet shod with the preparation of the gospel of peace.
Hey everybody, welcome back to welcome back to the Alabaster broadcast. I'm Jillian Stone, and this is going to be another rabbit hole on the true origins of Christmas. And I'm really excited to share this with you tonight. And a lot of things have been going on over the past week that have kind of led to it being a little bit hectic around the timing of this. I got a puppy, and we're already training him. I'm already training him, at least. I think I'm a pretty good dog trainer. We've already taught him how to sit. We've already taught him how to go for a walk. He's, hasn't had a potty accident over the past 2 days, having him. So I'm excited. We're slowly but surely getting there. And it has really led to a lot of joy in my life. So I'm excited to do this with a little bit more joy in my heart. Lots of good things coming our way. To those of you who are on Instagram, hi everybody. And to those of you who are on YouTube, hi everybody. We're going to dive into a pretty deep topic tonight, and we're going to be discussing the Yule log. The Yule log has a lot of connection to Christmas, has a lot of connection to very ancient traditions. We're going to be diving into a little bit of Genesis 6 at the end of this. So, if you buckle up, we're gonna go for quite the ride. So let's start this slideshow, and we'll just go over the Yule log. I'm excited. So here we have the Yule log, True Origins of Christmas. And I wanted to go over this because I think that there are a lot of things to just unpack. There's a lot here. And the reason why I picked the Yule log is because there's so much behind this practice that a lot of people don't even understand. Like, for instance, it's in a ton of Christmas songs, the Yule tide, Yule log, all of that. We're going to be diving into this, and in later parts of the series, we're going to be talking about the true origins of Yule, the true origins of Saturnalia, stuff like that. So for now, let's get into this. So this next episode walks through the true origins of the Yule log by looking through various practices, customs, traditions throughout the world and comparing them. This episode is to further solidify that Christmas is not, in fact, a Christian holiday and has nothing to do with Christ. So let's go into the first introduction part of it. The Yule log. The connection to Sol Invictus. The familiar custom of burning the Yule log dates back to earlier solstice celebrations and the tradition of bonfires. The Christmas practice calls for burning a portion of the Yule log each evening until the 12th night, which is January 5th or 6th. Usually the sources that I found are around January 5th or 6th. The log is subsequently placed beneath the bed for luck and particularly for protection from the household threats of lightning and, some irony, fire. Many have beliefs based on the Yule log as it burns, and by counting the sparks and such, they seek to discern their fortunes for the new year and beyond. Watts notes that the Yule log is one of various emblems of divine light that feature in winter holiday customs. Other examples include the Yule fire and the Yule candle. So here you have the earliest practices of like the 12th night, stuff like that, which dates very far back, even as far as Saturnalia and Romano, or I think it's Romano Celtic beliefs, which is just a whole other rabbit hole that we're going to be diving deep into next week. But here you can see here, the log is subsequently placed beneath the bed for luck and for protection. And so then they also have the beliefs based on the Yule log as it burns. They count the sparks and discern their fortunes for the new year. So obviously there's immediate divination that we're dealing with here. There is a lot to do with divination, witchcraft immediately. And I don't know, have you ever had a Yule log cake? Because either way, you're still eating something that represents witchcraft and divination. It's not good stuff, you guys. So the next thing here, modern divination, a connection to goddess worship. Our forefathers, when the common devices of eve were over and night was come on, were wont to light up candles of an uncommon size, which were called Christmas candles, and to lay a log of wood upon the fire, which they termed a Yule log or Christmas block. These were to illuminate the house and turn the night to day, which custom in some measure is still kept up in the northern parts. It hath in all probability been derived from the Saxons, for Bede tells us that this very night was observed in this land before by the heathen Saxons. They began, he says, their year on the 8th of the calendars of January, which is now our Christmas party, and the very night before, which is now holy to us, was by them called Madronac, or the Night of the Mothers. So this was a excerpt from Saint Bede, actually, and what's funny is he was actually a Catholic saint, and he documented a lot of this Yule stuff. So let's continue on with what Madronac, or the Night of the Mothers, is. Now here we have a lot of stuff. The Unholy Trinity, how goddesses were venerated on Christmas Eve. The Madronac, scholars have proposed connections between the Anglo-Saxon Modranit and the events attested among other Germanic peoples, specifically involving the Désir, collective female ancestral beings, and Yule, and the Germanic matris or matrone, female beings attested by the way of the altar and votive inscriptions, nearly always appearing in trios. So you have here immediately a mention of a dark trinity, a unholy trinity, and it all happens to be composed of women, these women spirits. So let's go on into a little bit more of the different cultures that also held this same belief of these three mothers. So you have the Matre and Matrone. They were female deities venerated in northwestern Europe, of whom relics are found dating from the 1st to the 5th century AD. They are found depicted on votive offerings and altars that bear images of goddesses depicted almost entirely in groups of 3 that feature inscriptions, about half of which feature continental Celtic names and half of which feature Germanic names, and were venerated in regions of Germania, Eastern Gaul, and Northern Italy, with small distribution elsewhere that were occupied by the Roman army from the 1st to the 5th century. So obviously you see here, you have the Roman and Galatian influence here. And the Gauls were actually the Celts, you guys. So just to clarify that, Galatia was a very, very big, widespread place and stretched all the way out to Ireland, etc., where all of the other Celts were. So it was a very big religion. It was a very big kingdom that extended very far. So the Galatians, and especially the book of Galatians, there's a reason why Paul felt the need to speak directly to them. So let's continue on. The mattress also appear on reliefs and inscriptions in other areas occupied by the Roman army, including southeast Gaul, as at Verilium. In Spain and Portugal, there were some 20 inscriptions known, among them several ones that include local epithets, such as a dedication to the Matribus Galatius, which means the Galatian mothers, and also in the Romano-Celtic culture of Pannonesian, I think that's how you pronounce it, the form of similar reliefs and inscriptions to the Nutrisses Augustae, which means the August nurses, found in the sites of Rome. So now we have some other beings, and these are called the Dees, which is a female deity or ghost or spirit associated with fate, who can either be benevolent or anti-agnostic toward morals. Desir, which is the plural, may act as protective spirits of Norse clans. It is possible that their original function was that of fertility goddesses, who were the object of both private and official worship, called discipline, and their veneration may derive from the worship of the spirits of the dead. The Desir, like the Valkyries, Norns, and Vaetir, are always referred collectively in surviving references. The Galatian mothers, a fusion of the mattress goddesses who originated from the Germanic provinces with the local Iberian epithet of Galatia, and the Nutrisses, the divine wet nurses, protected health of children and were guardians of families. They were extremely popular in Poetovio, and their roots reach back to pre-Roman Celtic world. All classes of the population turned to them for the protection of children. So there is no shortage of these goddesses. There is no shortage of their popularity across the world and across each and every one of these different cultures. So let's continue on with the Yule, right? While the Yule log is burning, all other lights are put out, and the candles are lit from the Yule log by the youngest person present. Interesting how they use the youngest children. While they are all lit, all are silent and wish. It is a common practice for the wish to be kept a secret. Once the candles are on the table, silence may be broken. They must be allowed to burn themselves out, and no other lights may be lit that night. H.J. Rose records a similar folk belief from Killinghall, Yorkshire in 1923. In the last generation, the Yule log was still burned and a piece of it saved to light the next year's Yule log. On Christmas morning, something green, a leaf or the like, was brought to the house before anything was taken out. The Yule log is also attested as a common present elsewhere in the English-speaking world, such as the United States. Robert Meyer Jr. records in 1947 that a Yule log ceremony in Palmer Lake, Colorado had occurred since 1934. He describes the custom. It starts with the Yule log hunt and is climaxed by drinking of wassail around the fire. In the southern United States, before the end of the American Civil War, the Yule log was also maintained as a tradition. For example, according to scholar Alan Cabanis, for slaves, Christmas had special meaning. December was a slow work month on the typical plantation, and it became the social season for them. The slaves' holiday lasted until the Yule log burning sometimes took over a week. Isn't that interesting? So let's stretch around the world. Let's see how the Yule log is incorporated worldwide, how it's not just, limited to Christmas. Very many other religions, very many other cultures around the world do the exact same thing, which kind of tells you and shows you how it indeed is not about Christmas at all. It's all very pagan, all very evil, and even stretches out to some Genesis 6 material. So let's continue on. Albania, Yule Logs Night is traditionally celebrated by Albanians between December 22nd and January 6th, which is, the 12 days of Christmas type thing, or just Yule in general. So Albania, right? So buzmi is a ritualistic piece of wood or several pieces of wood that is put to burn in the fire or the hearth on the night of a winter celebration that falls after the return of the sun for summer after the winter solstice. Sometimes on the night on December 24th, sometimes on the night of Kolendra, or sometimes on New Year's Day, or on any other occasion around the same period, a tradition that is originally related to the cult of the sun, Dieli, a series of rituals are performed with the buzmi, which, based on old beliefs, aims at the agricultural plant growth and prosperity of production in the living thing, production of vegetables, trees, vineyards, etc. This practice has been traditionally found among all Albanians, also documented among the Arbreshe in Italy and the Aravanites in Greece until the first half of the 20th century, and it is still preserved in remote Albanian ethnogeographic regions today. It is considered a custom of Proto-Indo-European origin. So I thought it was interesting because the symbol of Ndiele is also the symbol for Baal. And you also can see that it is also similar to the Knights Templar. There's a lot of that symbolism that you'll see. And as you know, the Knights Templar were Roman Catholic. So there's a lot of stuff that we're going to be getting into, kind of showing you just how much the Catholics have done to completely mix pagan traditions with everything that they possibly do, and it's sickening. So let's look at other Yule traditions across the world. Some of them are a little bit shorter than others, but some of them, like the ones that we're going to get into in a little bit, are pretty interesting and things that you just have to dive into detail with. So let's start with the UK. The term Yule log is not the only term used to refer to the custom. It was commonly called a Yule clog in northeast England, and it was also called the Yule block in the Midlands and West Country, and the Gule block in Lincolnshire. In Cornwall, this term stock of the muck was found. In Wales, it's called Bonkeef, Nadolig, or Blocken, I think that's Gliao, I think that's how you pronounce it. They have some strange names for these things. The Christmas log or festival block, which is basically what it's called. And in Scotland, it's called the Yule Carline, which is the Christmas old wife. Interesting, right? Because we were just talking about the goddess worship associated around this Yule log. In Ireland, the Yule log is often called Block Nalog, the Christmas block. In Germany, where it's called Christklotz, Christbrand, Christblock, Jolklotz, Juleblock, it was customary, especially in Hesse and Westphalia, to burn the log slowly and then remove it, throw it back on the fire as protection from lightning. In Portugal, which is completely across the world, Madeiros de Natal are big bonfires that are lit in the center of the village, in the main square, or in the churchyard on Christmas Eve. The remains of the log were preserved as they were believed to prevent damage usually caused by storms. In Montenegro, it was customary to put a piece of bread on the log similar to the Lombard custom and sprinkle it with wine. The Baltics also have a similar ritual called log pulling, where the people in a village would drag a log or tree stump through the village at the winter solstice, and then at the end, burn it. So now let's look into Galatia. There's a lot of stuff here. The Galatian connection. In Galatia, the Galatians also have their local variant of this tradition called Tizon de Nadal, or Sepo de Nadal. In Asturias, the Nataligu burns from December 24th until the New Year. So that's the 12 days of Christmas, you guys. That's where we're going to pick up next week. And you guys have to remember this Yule log burning for the 12 days of Christmas in the fireplace in many houses and leaves sweet buns for the children. Then his ashes, which were attributed healing and protective powers for the home, were scattered around the house, the stables, and other rooms. In High Aragon, it is called Tison de Nidal. The children of the house, emphasis on children, are in charge of saying beautiful phrases, blessings, and rituals, although in some places the blessing is done by the oldest or owner of the house. But isn't it interesting that they use children to conduct this witchcraft? It's very, very sickening, disturbing. Sometimes the blessing is done after filling the log with a little wine while the blessing is said. Catalan people have a similar tradition where Tio de Nadal is a magic log fed before Christmas, singing children over the Tio with a blanket and beat him with sticks to make the Tio defecate nougat candy and small gifts, so kind of like a piñata. In the eastern areas, in contact with Catalonia, the ritual was a more playful sport. When the children of the house hit the log, so it, sorry, I did not check the spelling here in this quote, but it poops the presents, which are used to be jellies, candies, nuts, and other things to eat or play. In Spain, they believed that their Christmas log was a living being that represented fertility, harvest, prosperity, and that it had the ability to ward off evil spirits that turned away the sun. The rituals reflected their need to usher in the sun deity to bring a good harvest. So they actually personified this. So let's get into Pyrenean Europe. This is actually insane to me. Absolutely insane to me. In Basque Country, the Sublearo Eager also burns until the end of the year, which is their version of the Yule log. The log gives life to good wishes, burns curses, prevents diseases, and ensures good harvests. Alternate names include Yigu Biri, Gabon, Gabon Zuzi, Gabon Subil, Gabon Muker, Alenciro, and Bor, Anant Zoro, Makor, Zuclaro, Eager, and many more. I'm not going to keep going. Alland Zero, history of Alland Zero, tell us that he was a newborn and he was abandoned in the woods and was found by a fairy who gave him the name Alland Zero. Now, it's very interesting because this guy, Alland Zero, is the equivalent in Pyrenean Europe of Santa Claus. So listen to this. Ready? Let's keep going. He turned into a strong man and charcoal burner who was also good with his hands, carving wooden toys that he would carry in a big charcoal bag to give to the village children. It is said that he died one day saving children from a burning house, and that when he died, the fairy who had found him granted him eternal life to continue to bring joy to children and people. Now, it's interesting how it's this fairy, right? Because the last episode that we did on this, when we talked about the origins of Santa Claus, we talked about Christ child and how he was kind of viewed as a sprite or a fairy or an elf. Isn't that interesting? So we have this fairy figure who finds this guy and raises him and all of that. So let's keep going here. One common version, and by the way, this is the most popular version, has Alland Zero being one of the Gentilac, a race of Basque giants living in the Pyrenees. Legend has it that they observed a glowing cloud in the sky one day. They could not look at this bright cloud except for a very old, nearly blind man. When asked to examine it, he confirmed their fears and told them that it was a sign that Jesus would be born soon. So let's pause that for a second. Let's reflect on that for a second. We have here that there was a giant race that was terrified of the return of Jesus. So obviously we have here that this Alland Zero, this Santa Claus figure, fears the return of Jesus. So only this old man could look at it. So let's see what the old man does. According to some stories, the old man asked the giants to throw him off a cliff to avoid having to live through Christianization. You guys, having obliged him, the giants tripped on the way down and died themselves, except for Olin Zero. In the modern version, Olin Zero is depicted as a lovable character, widely attributed to being overweight, having a huge appetite and thirst. He is depicted as a Basque peasant wearing a Basque beret, a farmer's attire with traditional Arbeca shoes, smoking a pipe, carrying eggs, and a bottle of wine. Whether he has a beard or not is not yet an established tradition. Sometimes his face is stained with charcoal as a sign of his trade as a charcoal burner. On Christmas Eve, groups of people or children carry effigies to All in Zero around on a chair through the streets, singing All in Zero carols and collecting food or sweets, not unlike American trick or treat. And traditions surrounding the holiday of the Santa agenda in the Basque County, where Olis Egida, asking for alms, is praised. At the end, it is customary in some places to burn the all in zero. Interesting. For example, in Lesica, variation is still common, both regionally and culturally, depending on whether the pagan or Christian aspects of all in zero are being emphasized. Near the sea, he usually takes on more marine attributes. Inland, he remains thoroughly rural in nature. Today, all in zero is celebrated all over the Basque Country and coexists with the Magi, Père Noel, and Father Christmas. Some families choosing to celebrate one or more at the same time. He's a modern personification of the old log. Now, let's take a look at what the Gentilac look like, and I think that you can see it right above my little face bubble where I'm talking right here. But does that little guy right there not look like Bigfoot to you guys? Isn't that interesting? How he looks like Bigfoot? Because when I saw that, I was actually shocked. I couldn't even believe what I was seeing here. Because did we just discover the origin of Bigfoot? Who Bigfoot actually is? Because I have never heard that theory before, that he was a part of the Gentilac, the race of Basque giants. I've never heard anyone say that before. But I thought that that was an interesting thing that I thought I would throw in from my last Santa Claus series, to throw in more of that Yule log, why it's burnt. Now, let's get into the next one. Let's look at the book of Enoch and why the story of Olin Zero makes sense. So we're going to be reading from the book of Enoch, and I know that it's very controversial for some people to listen to. So all I'm going to say is I think that there is something to this, especially with the significance of why these giants hated the return of Jesus and hated the idea of Jesus coming and saving us. So let's read from Enoch chapter 13, 1 through 10. And Enoch went and said to Azazel, who was, by the way, a fallen angel, "You will not have peace. A severe sentence has come out against you, that you should be bound. And you will have neither rest or mercy, or granting of any petitions, because of the wrong which you have taught, and because of all the works of blasphemy and wrong and sin which you have shown to the sons of man." And then I went and spoke to them all together, and they were all afraid. Fear and trembling seized them. And you can also see that in James chapter 2, verse 19, where Enoch is quoted. "And they asked me to write out for them the record of a petition, so that they might receive forgiveness, and take a record of their petition up to the Lord in heaven. For they were not able from then on to speak, and they did not raise their eyes to heaven out of shame for the sins for which they had been condemned. And then I wrote out the record of their petition and their supplication in regard to their spirits, and the deed of each one of them, and in regard to what they asked, and what they should obtain, absolution and forbearance. And I went and sat by the waters of Dan, in Dan, which is the southwest of Hermon. And I read out the record of their petition until I fell asleep, that I should keep the sons of heaven and reprove them. I woke up and went to them, and they were all sitting gathered together as they mourned in Ube Zael, which is between Lebanon and Sinir, with their faces covered. And I spoke in front of them all the visions that I had seen in my sleep, and I began to speak these words to reprove the watchers of heaven. And James 2:19 says, "You believe that there is one God. You do well. Even the demons believe and tremble." So Enoch in the Bible, or sorry, in the book of Enoch, it's more of an apocrypha than anything. But Enoch was begged by the fallen angels to intercede for them because Enoch had a direct communication line with the Lord. And it's so very interesting to see the way that Enoch even like interacted with them, how he was so unwavering in his faith. And he was like, nope, sorry guys, you have something coming for you. And the fallen angels knew that something really big was coming for them, and they were terrified. They couldn't believe it. They were shut out from God forever because of what they did, and justifiably as well. So let's continue on and read quite a few chapters ahead. And let's read about the coming of Jesus. Now, it's so funny because I want to say this first here. Enoch 71. This is actually what a lot of people say discredits Enoch, but they literally have it out of context every single time because they think that this chapter talks about how Enoch is calling himself the Son of Man, how he is calling himself the Messiah, but really it is Jesus, the Son of Man, appearing to Enoch in his heavenly form, declaring himself to be the Son of Man. So it's not Enoch claiming this, it's Jesus, the Son of Man. And they didn't know his name. No one knew his name back then. Jesus did not represent or present himself with his name. But even so, in Revelation, we will never know the true name of Jesus either. So that's like, it's so crazy to see so many different things that are taken out of context in the Bible and how like they all just morph together because in the beginning, they didn't know Jesus's name. And surely in the end, we will never know his true heavenly name until we are there. So let's continue on and read Enoch 71:14-17. And he, the angel, came to me and greeted me with his voice and said unto me, This is the Son of Man who is born unto righteousness, and righteousness abides over him. And the righteousness, the head of the days, forsakes him not. And you can see that also in Daniel 7:13, Jeremiah 13:15, and the book of Enoch 62, verse 1 and 2. So Jesus proclaimed himself. He said, This is the Son of Man, like pointed at me. He said unto me, and he said unto me, He proclaims unto thee peace in the name of the world to come. For from hence has proceeded peace since the creation of the world, and so shall it be unto thee forever and forever and ever. And all shall walk in his ways, since righteousness never forsaketh him. With him will be their dwelling places, with him their heritage, and they shall not be separated from him forever and ever and ever. And Psalm 85:11-13 says this as well. And so there shall be length of days without the Son of Man, and the righteous shall have peace in an upright way in the name of the Lord of spirits forever and ever. So here you have another place where Enoch mentions even before everything that he is coming, and he is coming to bring peace. So if you look at the story again of Olin Zero in the context of the pagan variation, which is the most popular variation of that story, the giants being afraid and literally throwing a man off a cliff to save them and tripping and killing themselves to avoid Christianization of the world makes a lot of sense coming from the book of Enoch. So let's continue on. Decked in Yule. In Tuscany, especially in the Val di Chiana province of Arezzo, it was customary to sing a prayer during the Ceremonia de Capo, log ceremony. Later, blindfolded children, later rewarded with sweets and other gifts, had to hit the log while the rest of the family sang a particular song called Ave Maria de Capo. In Lombardy, the head of the family was used to sprinkle juniper on the log and place coins on it while reciting a prayer in the name of the Trinity. So pagan, you guys. Then wine was drunk at will, and the remaining wine was thrown by the head of the family on the log. It was also customary during the log ceremony to cut 3 panettone and keep a piece for the healing purposes the whole following year. Wow, that's pagan. Serbian people, the Balkans, have a similar tradition in which oak is burned. The Bajnak logs burning in the hearth Christmas Eve in Dalmatia as early as Jacob Grimm in the early 19th century. Scholars have observed parallels between South Slavic custom of the Bajnak and the Yule log tradition. As observed by M.E. Durham in 1940, the Bajnak was a sapling that is placed on the hearth on Christmas Eve. Varying customs involve the Bajnak may be performed, such as smearing it with fowl blood or goat blood, and the ashes may be strewn on the fields or garden to promote fertility on New Year's Eve. Guys, that is so sick. So dark. Let's continue on. Here we go. Now, this is where it gets really interesting here. In Greece, the Yule log was believed to drive away the Kali Kantzorai. I think that's how you pronounce it. The evil monsters of local folklore from one's home. The term Kali Kantzaros is speculated to be derived from the Greek Kalos Kantaros, which means beautiful centaur. Although this theory was been met with many objections. A secondary theory proposes that the word comes from the Turkish Kara Konjolos, which means werewolf vampire, from Kara black and Kongolos bloodsucker werewolf. The Kali Kanzarai are believed to dwell underground, but come up to the surface during the 12 days of Christmas, from the 25th of December to the 6th of January, from the winter solstice for a fortnight, which time in the sun ceases its seasonal movement. Another supposed method of protection from the Kali Kanzarai was to leave the fire burning in the fireplace all night so that they could not enter through it. You guys, let's kind of break that down. That's a lot of information. The Yule log in Greece was used to drive away a race of Nephilim giants that were either depicted as beautiful centaurs or werewolf vampires. Wow. And they lived underground but came up during the 25th to January 5th. Isn't that interesting? The 12 days of Christmas, when these demon beings, these Nephilim beings, come out of hiding to terrorize the masses. That is so crazy. More Yule log, like, that is, like, it's used to drive away these demons? What? Wow. So let's continue on. Another supposed method of protection from the Kali Kanzarai was to leave the fire burning in the fireplace all night so they couldn't enter it, right? In some areas, people would burn the Yule log for the duration of the 12 days. In other areas, people would throw foul-smelling shoes into the fire, as making the stench was believed to repel the Kali Kanzarai, forcing them to stay away. Additional ways to keep them away included marking one's door with a black cross on Christmas Eve and burning incense. Why a black cross? What in the world? According to legend, any child born during the 12 days of Christmas was in danger of transforming into a Kali Kanzaros during each Christmas season, starting with adulthood. Now listen to this. It was believed that the antidote to prevent this transformation was to bind the baby in tresses of garlic or straw, or to set fire to the child's toenails, you guys. According to another legend, anyone born on a Saturday could see and talk with the Kali Kanzarai. So weird. In one particularly, that set the Kanzora apart from other goblins or creatures in folklore was that they were said to appear on Earth for only 12 days each year. Their short duration on Earth, as well as the fact that they were not considered purely malevolent creatures, but rather impish and stupid, led to another of theories about their creation. One theory connects them to masquerades of ancient Roman winter festival of Bacchanalia, and earlier the Greek Dionysus or Dionysia, which is another Roman festival dedicated to Dionysus. During the drunken, orgiastic parts of the festivals, people wearing masks, hidden under costumes and bestial shapes, yet still appearing humanoid, may have made an exceptional impression on the minds of the simple folk who were intoxicated. In Greek, the term Kalikonzoros is also used to describe another number of short and ugly, usually mischievous beings in folklore. When not used for the aforementioned creatures, it seems to express the collective sense for the Irish word leprechaun and English words gnome and a goblin. Isn't that interesting, you guys? So here we have a pretty in-depth kind of introduction to Yule, and we're starting off with the Yule log, which is probably the most popular tradition in Christmas as far as burning fire or wood or anything like that along with the Christmas tree. So I hope that that gave you some sort of new information going into our next presentation, which I'll show you now. We're going to be diving in next week into the origins of the Advent and the 12 days of Christmas. We're also going to be throwing in the origin of New Year's. It's pretty disgusting. This is kind of an introductory video. I know that it's probably a little bit more boring than the spiciness of the next ones, or even the first Santa Claus one, which I think that we can all believe and agree is, you know, a pretty dark origin of Santa Claus. So now we have that Yule log. The next, we're going to be diving into that Advent. We're going to be diving into the 12 days of Christmas and New Year's. All of that is going to be a pretty interesting time for sure. One that, man, I may cry about it next week. I may cry about it because it is so dang evil. As I was finishing half of the slideshow already, I was kind of stricken with, wow, Lord, these people did terrible things in your name. And the fact that they mixed pagan culture, pagan custom, with a religion that was supposed to be dedicated to you, it's disgusting. So in essence, as I am destroying the idea of Christmas and completely breaking down those idols, we're also going to be waking people up to exactly what the Catholic Church really represents, what they really do, who they really are, and why you should have nothing to do with them, why you should leave that church if you are a part of them or were even close to them. So with that being said, I hope you guys enjoyed this expose on the true origins of Christmas. And in this series, we talked about the Yule log. Please subscribe if you're on my YouTube channel. And please like and share with everybody around you. On Instagram, this will be replayable, so you guys can see this over again whenever you want to. And all that good stuff. So I love you guys. And I will see you next week for the next true origins of Christmas. Love you guys. Bye.
For we wrestle not against flesh and blood, but against principalities, against powers, against the rulers of the darkness of this world, against spiritual wickedness in high places. Wherefore take unto you the whole armor of God, that ye may be able to withstand in the evil day, and having done all to stand. Stand therefore having your loins girt about with truth, and having on the breastplate of righteousness, and your feet shod with the preparation of the gospel of peace.